Mimighoul controls the field while Dogmatika strips the extra deck. This matchup is surprisingly powerful, but just how powerful? I'll show you why Mimighoul Dogmatika is the underdog you need. So we're going to dive in to see how far this mighty duel can push through in ranked. First up is Branded. Alrighty, duel number 1 and our opponent's going first. Nice! We opened with a really solid going second hand, so we should be okay, right? At least this is what it seems like. But even though Max C resolves, we'll soon find out that our opponent has more than enough trouble waiting for us. It's finally our turn, and our opponent's board seems pretty simple. But this is where the challenge really begins. We're now staring down a full board of monsters that seem to come out of nowhere. But we'll start with this. Go, Harpy's Feather Duster! With the back row now cleared, we'll need to deal with the monsters. We could try to get Mimighoul Dragon on their field using Maker to wipe their board, but there's a problem. Their field is full. We don't have much choice, so we'll have to start off with our Dogmatika. The goal right now is that we want to clear a spot. But how will we do it? There's so much interruption. But we actually have someone who can really help us out. Go, Dogmatika Albazoa! With Albazoa on the field, our Dogmatika will be protected from extra deck monster effects. But we're on the offensive, so we're going to bring out White Relic Dogmatika for a massive attack boost. But our opponent isn't just going to sit idle. Decklist the Pelea hits the field, and even though it isn't a threat now, it will be for our Mimighouls. So we'll want to get rid of it. But before we do, let's rip out a few cards from their extra deck. We just need to open up a slot on their field so we can unleash our Mimighouls. But our opponent wasn't gonna let that happen. Darn, we couldn't do it. With no space on their field, we can't activate Mimighoul Maker. This wasn't looking too good for us as we don't have much interruption for our opponent's turn. But we do have a few floating effects in the grave. Go, Forbidden Droplet! Although we have a chunky Albazoa on our field to protect us, will he be enough to hold off against Branded for a turn? We have Dogmatika Fleur-de-Lis as our only interruption, but our opponent has Tri-Brigade Mercurier to stop her. And even worse, all our opponent has to do is bring out Fallen of Albaz to get rid of Albazoa. There's not much we can do, but you might be surprised at what happens. So Fallen of Albaz hits the field, but you can't use its effect. That's because you ripped out Albion the Sanctifier Dragon last turn, so there's nothing to fuse into. But our opponent isn't giving up. With all the summoning they're doing, there has to be something left in their extra deck to get rid of Albazoa, right? But they have nothing. Albazoa stands strong! Although we've survived this turn, we're still stuck facing a full field of monsters. So, how are we going to break through? Well, since their extra deck is thinning out, we can actually do something pretty cool that doesn't always get to happen. But in order to do so, we'll need to rip out every card from our opponent's extra deck. Yep, everything. But our opponent isn't just going to sit around. As they're struggling to out Albazoa, you may wonder, why rip out everything? Well, you see, when we use Albazoa's effect and our opponent has no extra deck left, they'll be forced to spin all their extra deck monsters off the field. It's a neat little gimmick. With one card left, we'll use Dogmatika Matrix to rip out the final card. Now it's time! Go, Albazoa! The first challenger is down, the climb gets tougher, and our next challenger is Tearlament. Alrighty, duel number 2 and we're going first. So here's the plan. We'll aim to build a defensive board that controls the field while stripping resources from the extra deck. So we'll start out with our Mimighoul line to set up Dungeon, Master, and Throne for interruption. We also have Nadir's Servant, which lets us transition into Dogmatika. Since we're playing defensively, we'll want to bring out both White Knight and White Relic of Dogmatika. But wait, you might be wondering, why not Albazoa? Wasn't he the MVP last game? True, but here's the simple answer. Stripping 3 to 4 cards that we can choose is a whole lot more effective than stripping 6 to 7 cards that we can't choose. And because we're facing Tearlaments, we'll choose to get rid of Tearlament's Root Kalos. We've now got a solid board with multiple layers of interruption and resource stripping. But we can't let our guard down. This is Tearlaments after all. Our opponent is opening with Millennium monsters, not to summon Exodia like they're intended for, but instead to bring out the zombie vampire. So of course we'll choose to rip that away with White Knight of Dogmatika. On a side note, I don't know why Nadir's Servant couldn't destroy Sengenjin. If you know why, let me know in the comments please. With Snake Eyes Doom Dragon hitting the field, we'll respond with White Relic to strip another card. We're stripping Pilgrim Reaper since that would help Tearlaments mill cards off their deck. But the trouble is just starting. Let's try to stop Fiendsmith in his tracks. Go Dogmatika Punishment! Darn, they got Fiendsmith's tracked. It probably would have been better to save Punishment for Fiendsmith's sequence, but we still have Dogmatika Fleur-de-Lis. Go Dogmatika Fleur-de-Lis! Now, there's no way they have more fuel, right? Now Tearlaments are coming out. At least Root Kalos is nowhere to be seen since we ripped her out last turn. But that's only temporary because they just recovered her. This isn't too bad. Both White Relic and White Knight survived, plus Ecclesia is coming. So it's time to make a comeback. Nice, Harpy's Feather Duster. We'll want to first clear the back row before committing to anything. A lot of Tearlament floaters will get triggered off the destruction, but we'll also be able to use White Knight's effect to strip Root Kalos again. Plus Golden Cloudbeast Malung can bounce Kaleido Heart. But soon we'll see that our opponent still has more waiting for us. Darn, Root Kalos is here. Root Kalos will stop us from special summoning by card effect and will revive herself if she's destroyed by card effect. Usually that's a huge problem for us, but good thing we have the stronger monsters. We just have to be super careful not to activate monster effects now because our opponent also has Tearlament's Havness in their hand. Now that Root Kalos is out of the way, we'll want to push our advantage. Go Dogmatika Albazoa! It's sort of surprising that our opponent is still sticking around with just one card left in their hand. And that's another challenger down. The climb continues and next up is Punk. Alrighty, duel number 3 and we're going first. Our plan stays the same. We'll want to open with our Mimighoul line before transitioning to Dogmatika. Darn, Ash Blossom. We won't be able to bring our Mimighouls out, but it's a good thing we have a backup. As long as we can get an extra deck monster out, we can extend into Dogmatika. Darn, our opponent also has Max C. Normally this would be annoying to deal with, but we actually don't have to summon much. In this situation, we already have more than enough interruption, but will it be enough to stop our opponent? Here comes Fiendsmith again. Unlike last game, we're going to be patient and interrupt them later in their combo. We don't want Engraver to get rid of our cards, so it's time to use this. Go Dogmatika Punishment! Engraver is gone, but there's still more Fiendsmith to get past. We just need to be patient as our opponent is probably trying to bring out Fiendsmith Desiree for its negation effects. But that negation is only live if they have an equip card on their field, so we'll make sure to hit them right before that happens. Now's our chance. Go, Mimighoul Room! Cool, we disabled Desiree, but our opponent is just getting started. We still have Fleur-de-Lis, so we just need to hit Punk at their choke point, which is Punk Rising Scale. Go Dogmatika Fleur-de-Lis! But even though we stopped their combo, our opponent isn't stopping there. On a side note, I'm not really sure why Link Rebuild didn't reduce Psychic and Punisher's attack, but if you do know, let me know in the comments please. Our field is looking bare, but Dogmatika Ecclesia is coming to the rescue. With both Mimighoul Maker and Dogmatika Matrix, we can fully recover, but will our opponent have some tricks up their sleeve? Let's bring out the Mimighouls. It's time to get rid of Punisher. Go Mimighoul Dragon! And that's the last one. Now let's see how the deck held up. Whew. Mimighoul Dogmatika has actually been doing rather well in Diamond. It's really all about knowing which cards to take away from our opponent that will slow them to a crawl. I've been playing this deck for several weeks now, and honestly, it never gets tiring since the deck is very reactionary to whatever my opponent is playing. This time, I was able to trim my deck down to 50 cards from the older 60 card build I had. This really helps with a lot of consistency in drawing openers, but also still generally keeps the garnets out of the way. If you're looking to try Mimighoul Dogmatika, I highly recommend it. It might just be the underdog that you're looking for. Oh, and let me know in the comments if there are other decks you'd like me to showcase. I'll be happy to look into it and I read every comment. Anyways, bye bye.